Hi everyone, my name is Bella. Today I wanted to talk about the new Cinderella, which just came out on Amazon. It came out a few weeks ago. So, this is another version of Cinderella, a story we all already know, and specifically, it's a new musical version of Cinderella. I have some thoughts about it, and it's going to be spoiler free, so enjoy if you haven't already seen the movie. But so first I'll talk about the cast and some of their performances. So this movie has a star-studded cast. I mean, it's really full of people that I love. Camila Cabello plays Cinderella, Idina Menzel plays the stepmother, Billy Porter plays the fabulous godmother, Pierce Brosnan and Minnie Driver are the king and queen, and James Corden plays one of the mice, and Nicholas Galitzine plays the prince. I hopefully I said that right. But the cast is a really important factor for me in movies. I love when there's so many people that I love in it and just people that I know are going to do really well. That's just I really love to see that in movies. So, I mean, specifically here, there's a lot of people in the cast that really know what they're doing. Idina Menzel and Billy Porter are seasoned Broadway performers. Camila Cabello and Minnie Driver are actual singers, and then James Corden is just an expert in movie musicals at this point. But I thought Camilla was great. This is her first acting role, as far as I know, and she was just such a natural, I thought. She's very charismatic and just seems very comfortable in front of the camera. She does act everything out very Disney Channel ish, is how I would describe it. But I think that's what the movie was going for, so it worked. And it wasn't, this isn't the deepest role ever. This version of Cinderella, the character, she's fun and sassy, but there were a few times when I feel like they wanted Cinderella to be crying, but it just looked like they put some water droplets on her face. So that was a little bit much for me. But I'll get more into the singing and dancing part of their performances later. But Billy Porter was my favorite in the movie. I wish he would have been in it more. He was only in it for one scene, but he killed it. And Adina was also great in every scene she was in. And as for James Corden, I just want to come to his defense a little bit because people always give him such a hard time for being in every movie musical, but I like him. It's almost reassuring for me to see him there. So I liked that he was in this movie even if it was just for a little bit. I think this is an interesting take on Cinderella. She's a sassy Cinderella that has dreams and goals for herself. She knows her worth and doesn't subscribe to gendered expectations. It's very much taking aim at the Cinderella trope where everyone says that she just waits for a man to come save her. And she's very confident in what she wants and she knows what she deserves in life. So I thought it was fun. I liked this take on Cinderella. I didn't really like this prince. I liked that they tried something new with the character. This prince is more of a slacker, almost like a player, doesn't take his role as prince seriously. He was too cool for me. I like my princes to be more regal and proper and serious, but I do like that they tried something different with the character. And they give the stepmother a bit more of a backstory here than they do in other adaptations. She's not as mean as in other versions. In most other versions, she's overly cruel for absolutely no reason. But here I don't think she's as mean as other versions, and here she has a reason why she does the things that she does, and she's only trying to protect Cinderella. And her meanness is mostly just from how restrictive she is over Cinderella's life, and because she's trying to get her to conform with societal expectations. I liked the princess too. I liked how she fit in with the themes and how she had all of these ideas for the kingdom. And she was just so adorable. I wish she was given more screen time. So for Cinderella and the prince, their relationship, I like that it wasn't exactly the same as previous versions. It definitely plays with gender stereotypes and societal expectations. So I liked the idea, but as far as actual chemistry and cuteness factor, it was for me. They were okay together, but I didn't really care about them together for the most part. The king and queen also have their own side story. I like how that also plays into the overall themes of the movie. And I thought Pierce Brosnan and Minnie Driver were great. They both look really good and they're both perfect for the roles, very regal and authoritative. So for the story, they definitely take some risks. It's definitely a feminist version, subverting expectations and stereotypes. I like how they added more background to characters like the stepmother and the king and queen, so we understand their motivations a bit more. I like that there was more of a story behind Cinderella as well. As far as some of the traditional Cinderella storyline bits that they kept, I think they dropped the ball on those a little bit. So for as one example, the relationship between Cinderella and the stepmother. I'm in this version, I'm not really sure what the history was between them. So traditionally it's that Cinderella's dad marries the stepmother and then he dies, and then Cinderella is left behind with the stepmother and they treat her really badly and she's basically kept as a maid. And in this one, it was hard to tell what their relationship actually was. Like, I don't know if we're supposed to assume it's the same thing. Like, she had the dad that married the stepmother and he died. And I don't know if they told us that. I don't remember them ever doing that. Or I don't know if we're supposed to assume that it's just the same as other versions. And then, just as another example, I don't remember the fabulous godmother ever saying anything about Cinderella having to leave the ball at midnight or the magic will run out, which is another traditional Cinderella storyline bit. But then in this version, as the clock struck 12, Cinderella starts running away from the ball as usual, but that seemed out of nowhere because I didn't remember that rule ever being established in this movie, other than if we, just assumed that that's what happens because that's what happens in all the other versions. But it's possible I just missed something since I only watched the movie once. And they definitely attempted something with the comedy. They tried. It wasn't really cringy for me or anything like that, but it just wasn't my type of humor, I think. And I can't really tell who it would be more effective for, if older or younger generations would like it more. But it's very over the top. It's almost campy, is how I would describe it. And the whole movie is just very self-aware. It makes fun of tropes or things that are happening in the story.
Since I'm maybe in love with him.
Love? It was one night.
I never felt what I felt.
There were a few lines that I thought were funny, but most of it didn't quite work for me. But again, it wasn't cringe bad where it's sad or awkward that they're trying so hard. And this is a movie that feels like it's set in the past, since they have all of these antiquated standards and gender roles and kings and queens and royalty. So it's all set in the past, but they talk in a modern way. It's a more casual way of speaking. So it's a similar approach of something like Dickinson, except not as crude. So on to some of the musical aspects of this movie. I think this is a bit of where it goes wrong for me. I'm just not a fan of jukebox musicals in general. And if you don't know what a jukebox musical is, it's taking pre-existing songs and using them in a musical. So, for example, Mamma Mia or Moulin Rouge. I just don't want to hear mediocre versions of songs that I already know and love, or they might just choose songs that I don't like in the first place. I love musicals in general because I think the songs immerse me in the story and in the world, and I think a jukebox musical pulls me out of the fantasy a little bit. It makes me remember, oh, I'm watching a movie and they're performing a Queen song that describes their feelings about this situation. It also just feels like the songs chosen are really forced into the story. Musicals usually include songs to get more understanding of the character or relationships or to move the story forward. And I find in jukebox musicals that they really just try to find a fun song that kind of fits and they just throw it in and it's just a fun little song and dance number. And as a jukebox musical, I think the songs in this movie were a little bit all over the place. There wasn't really a theme to them. Usually jukebox musicals have a theme, like all ABBA songs or all 80s to 90s rock songs. This movie had songs just all over the place. Ed Sheeran, Janet Jackson, Madonna, Earth, Wind and Fire, White Stripes. There's really no correlation between time periods, genres, nothing like that. So it was definitely very uncohesive for me. And again, none of these versions are going to compare to the original songs, so it's just really pointless to me, which is really sad because they really did have good talent in this movie, but they didn't utilize them to their fullest potential because they're overshadowed by the songs and the original artists. There also weren't enough songs for me personally, and there weren't enough group numbers or dancing. I started off kind of hopeful. I thought there was some cool group stuff going on in the opening number, but it definitely fizzled off and there wasn't really much going on in most of the other numbers as far as group numbers and just choreography in general. So now I want to get into some of the songs specifically, just very brief thoughts about each song. And before I get into each song, I just want to say a few things that pretty much apply to all of them. So, as I said, with jukebox musicals, pretty much all of these songs, I don't really feel like they quite fit into the story, or they're not really telling us anything that we don't already know. They just chose something that was fun and popular and kind of fit, and also just none of these songs compared to the original. Some might come close and might even break even with the original, but none surpass the original. So that's kind of what's the point to me. But anyways, song number 1 is Rhythm Nation / You Gotta Be. Rhythm Nation. I liked Rhythm Nation as a group number. I liked the choreo they were doing. I thought it was a good way to open the movie. There's a lot of energy and getting to see the town and its citizens.
You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger.
And I actually really liked Camilla's version of You Gotta Be. I think this is the only time where they actually do something pretty different from the source material. It reinvents the song a little bit. And I also just liked these two songs as a mashup. Song number 2 is Million to One.
If it's a million to one, I'm gonna be that one. And if it's
This is one of the few original songs in the musical, and I did like it, and I just like Camilla's voice. I think it's unique. Song number 3, The New Berry.
King Rowan, of course, and our Queen Beatrice in their fancy royal robes. You don't want to miss Prince.
These were the songs that the town crier makes announcements to the citizens, and these were pretty forgettable, I thought. Song number 4 was Somebody to Love.
Barely stand on my feet. Take a look in the mirror and cry. Lord, what you're doing to me. I have spent all my...
It's a bold choice to cover Queen. It wasn't bad, though, I thought it, but I mean, it's obviously not going to compare to Queen. Song number 5, Material Girl.
Some boys kiss me, some boys hug me. I think they're okay.
I liked this version of the song. Adina's voice is so great, and I just liked some of the performance and movement of the characters. Song number 6, Am I Wrong?
The things that I can't see. Ow. Oh,
That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel.
This was one of the most WTF songs in the movie. This is the biggest outlier, I feel. Like, I don't really get why they included this song here, but I'm also just not a huge fan of the original song. Song number 7, Million to One, Reprise. I liked this song as an original addition, but I think they relied on it too much. They kept coming back to it as a theme or motif, and I just didn't like how often they would come back to it and not really change it every time. So it just got pretty repetitive for me. Song number 8, Shining Star.
When you wish upon a dream, hey, oh, life ain't always what it seems.
Billy Porter killed this. This one was so fun. This was probably my favorite performance in the musical. Billy's vocals are great. He brings that charisma, and I definitely wish he was in the movie more. Song number 9, What a Man / Seven Nation Army.
what a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. Yes, he is. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man.
What a Man was another one that I felt was a weird choice, but I did actually like the way the two mashed up in the end.
I'm gonna fight them off. A 7-nation army couldn't hold me back.
And I like the idea of the girls fawning over the prince with What a Man, and the prince trying to find a way to keep them away with 7-nation army. The choreo was pretty underwhelming, though. Song number 10, Perfect.
Darling, just dive right in and follow my lead.
This moment was actually pretty cute. I really liked the song choice here, and this was the one time that I actually felt their romance and liked them together. I thought the dance was, the choreo felt a little awkward to me, though. Song number 11, Dream Girl.
Treasure you found, bury it. The only way I'll marry it.
This is another original song for the movie. Even though Adina's performing it, I didn't really like the song. It wasn't very catchy for me. Song number 13, Let's Get Loud. This again felt a little random. Throw in a Latin song at the end, but it was a fun, energetic way to end the movie. And I like that this actually had a big group dance number. That's something that was missing overall for me in this movie, but at least they did a little bit at the end. I want to talk about the themes a little bit without going too much into spoilers. So this movie definitely has a lot to say about gender roles and stereotypes and expectations. Cinderella wants to open her own dress shop, but the townspeople don't take her seriously because she's a woman and women can't run their own businesses. The stepmother relegates Cinderella to this domestic lifestyle, tries to force her down this path of being a wife and marrying for money, and that the only purpose of a woman is to be a wife and mother. And Cinderella pushes back against this idea that she has her own dreams and she doesn't need to fit into this mold of what other people want her to be. Cinderella and the prince's relationship is also different than other versions. This is a more realistic version where the characters try to work out how their lives will fit together and how their relationship will affect their dreams and their jobs. Princess Gwen is constantly giving good, thoughtful ideas of how to better the kingdom, but no one ever takes her seriously because she's a woman.
But would this be a good time for me to mention how the kingdom could use the power of the wind instead of burning filthy coal?
And it's the same for the queen. She has opinions, but it's always shushed by the king. It can definitely feel like they're pushing this narrative a bit too far or just too obviously. It can feel a little obnoxious, but considering the target audience, which is kids, I think it is handled pretty well. So, as for the aesthetics, specifically the costumes, it's always funny in shows or movies like this where the character they have a dream of doing this thing and then they're kind of not even that good at it. So here Cinderella dreams of making dresses and opening her own shop, but I just wasn't too impressed with her designs. It reminds me of something else. But yeah, I wasn't really impressed with the costumes generally. In these types of princess movies, I always really love the costumes, but nothing really stood out to me here. The one costume that did stand out to me was the fabulous godmother's outfit. I really liked that one a lot. The sets were a little off to me too. So this movie is set in this fantasy world, kingdom, and the costumes in townspeople's homes they're a little whimsical. Not quite as whimsical as in the 1997 Cinderella, for example, but it's slightly whimsical and fantastical and unrealistic. But then we go to the castle, which is real looking, and the rooms are cold and lavish. It's like we're suddenly in The Crown. So I didn't like that disconnect. I thought the movie was light and fun. I didn't really get bored of it. But also with it being so light and fun, there isn't this seriousness that I need to really grow attached to the characters and the story. And without that attachment, I don't feel too connected to the movie, and I think it will probably fade in my memory pretty quickly. I don't think I would ever come back to this movie to watch it again. With all the other versions of Cinderella that exist, I would rather go watch one of those. I think this is a good attempt, though. I think kids will really like this one. It's hard not to compare this to other versions of Cinderella. I absolutely love the 1997 version, and I don't think any version of Cinderella will ever compare to that one for me. This Cinderella does have some really great things about it. The cast is one really stellar aspect of it, but there's just some big things for this movie that don't quite work for me, like the tone and the songs. I do really appreciate that they are coming at this story from a completely new perspective, though. I love that they gave it this feminist twist. So, my rating and recommendation. I think, yes, the themes are pretty basic. It's basic girl boss feminism, but I liked the twist on the story and that they were trying to say something. this is a family-friendly movie, so it's hard to make it appeal as much to adults without having adult humor and adult messages, something more profound and deep and relatable. And I prefer just a more serious tone, and I I think this has a good digestible message for young kids though, and I think that they would really enjoy this movie. It was a little campy, cheesy, but it was fun. This one, it's going for a more fun version, but I personally prefer a more deep and regal version like Ever After or the Rodgers and Hammerstein versions. Another factor here is that I didn't really like it as a musical. I didn't like the songs they chose. I didn't really like the choreography. But also, with all the other Cinderella versions to choose from, I don't think I would ever come back to this one specifically. So overall, I would give this a 6 out of 10. I don't know if this was so great that I would recommend it. It's kind of middle territory for me. I think people were definitely exaggerating how bad they thought it was. But if you like musicals or you like this cast, it probably is worth seeing. I think kids would also really enjoy it. So that's it for my thoughts on Cinderella. Let me know what you thought. Let me know who your favorite character was. Let me know what your favorite song was. If you didn't like it, let me know why. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!